I am so excited about demonstrating and presenting this. Basically, it's not a new method, but a method that I'm now working with in the public sphere to you because it is empowering. It shows you how we create our future. We've heard about creating your own reality from so many people. Wonderful Florence Scovel Shinn, Napoleon Hill, Abraham Hicks, and others. But this is like the next level. What you do is you go in to the place. It's like remote viewing. It's like remote influencing. But actually, you just take yourself and you use your thought to take you into a future moment. And then you are in it, you be it. So it's not just, oh, I think about it or I see it. No, you actually be it. And that's using improvisation, which I have so loved to work with children for decades. And you will see when you experience this how powerful it is. Now, we know everything is broken. The old system, the cabal created system, they want a reset. They want to go back to reducing us all completely and automata that they can control, the AI takeover, the dark satanic mills, all of that, so that we are some kind of programmed entity. But of course, the human spirit won't allow it. So where we're actually heading is New Earth, Eden. Let's call it that. Why not? That's our reset in a different way, our restart, our new vision. And we all know you can't go to the old structures. They're just corrupt. You can't even pull them apart and reconstruct them. You just have to literally leave them. So what do we have to do? As that crumbles with the weight of its stupidity against humanity, we have to have something ready. And this is where the inspirational speaking house comes in, because we create something new. And education, see my last video, I've written years and years about education and learning. Even though I studied landscape architecture and my PhD was in architecture, yes, it was all about child psychology, how children learn and what they need to learn so that they become beautiful, full beings. So that's what we're doing. We're creating that future. And I call it schools because, for want of a better word for now, places of learning. And the speaking house is as lovely a name as any. So that's the name I give it in all of my descriptions, in my books and so on. And we're going to go in there right now. We're going to look at another aspect. So last time you were looking at me talking to some children doing a project and a new potential teacher. So this time I'm going to give a guided tour. That's why I'm standing up, because sometimes I need to move. I'm actually fresh in from the garden. Still have my cozy jumper wrapped around my waist because I've been working on digging to plant new lovely things, including Dr. Bernardis, tobacco. Yes, I listen. But we're going to go and do a guided tour of this beautiful place of learning. And what happens when I do that? I'm translocating to a future event, making it real for me and for you. And that brings power and energy to it. That brings power and energy to it. It's making it a factual existence in the universe because I'm witnessing it and being in it. Interesting. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. Oh, that is such a beautiful room. So I'm standing in a room that is, it's not circular. It's got 12 sides. So it's almost circular. The corners have been smoothed so it feels circular. And there are clerestory windows around the top. And it's, how big is it? It's, now I'm going to do meters and feet because I have international audience. It's 20 meters across. Wow. That's about 60, no, yes, 60 foot diameter, big, beautiful space. The floor, gleaming floorboards, beautiful. In fact, I love this about the floor. It reminds me of the Taikos school that Anastasia, the Ringing Cedars, inspired and kind of works with. The children paint beautiful pictures on the floor of their school, but this one, it's not painted. Instead, they've used different kinds of wood. So it's not even a kind of crazy pattern, it's more of a beautiful organic pattern. You've got these long planks of different colors of wood, shades of wood, because wood comes in all gorgeous colors. So of course this place is vibrant with the love and celebration of nature. Nature's unadulterated, beautiful abundance. So the floor is gleaming, wonderful big slabs of polished level, different kinds of woods. Gorgeous. Now, there's clerestory windows. Why am I telling you these details? Because this is the atmosphere that these children in this particular place of learning, this particular speaking house, have the pleasure of attending and using for their learning, their experiential play. So the windows are actually, in my present house where I live, I've got very old casement windows in diamond panes. And it's not quite diamond panes, but it almost is. It's stained glass panes. So you get this beautiful dappled light of different colors all around these sides, the 12 sides of this space. And they're at the top, and then you have a slightly raised ceiling like this above that, with rafters that are also painted in graduations of color, and a beautiful plastered wall, hand plastered, just one color, almost a skin tone of my kind of skin tone. But I am a white person, and we have many white people on the planet, but we have also people of all sorts of other wonderful shades. However, funnily enough, because of the color of blood in all of our skin is the same, there are some colors that work with every skin tone. Fancy that. And this one is a very soft kind of a pink. It's a very warm, slightly apricot pink, very subtle, but hand painted on this wall. So it's just like a hug in a glorious space. Now I want to start dancing and moving and spreading around this gorgeous space because it's so fabulous. And if I could, I would be running and jumping and leaping through this glorious space. And I know that's one of the things it's used for. Let's test out the sound. Yes. When you have a round, it sends the sound in a beautiful standing wave. And if you can find, you could hopefully, because I've used two ways of recording the sound, you'll be able to hear the tone of that. Probably an F, I would say. When you hit the central core of the note, what do we call it? Oh, I've forgotten the name. When it's a proper resonant frequency, anyway, you set out a standing wave from the point of focus, so from my mouth outwards. And so it spreads radially, like a ripple. Basically, when you throw a stone in a pond and it ripples, it's that. So all parts of the room are affected similarly with the sounds. So it's a perfect, wonderful place to give concerts and have events with sound, or even speaking in the center. The center point is where the speaker stands. And if I go to the center, there is a space which has been almost cut out from this longitudinal, beautiful planking of woods to a, it's actually signifying the sound, the sides of the walls and the windows are cut out place about this wide, which is a perfect placement for someone to stand and speak or sing or to start a dance or to play an instrument. But it is a speaking point because you can hear, even from behind, if you were the audience behind, you would still hear this radial spread of sounds. It's a beautiful way. And the ceiling with its slight roof enables the sound to come up and down. So it's a perfect natural acoustic, basically. Wonderful. So I found myself right in the heart of the school. And what I can also see is that not on every wall, but on some of the walls, in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, four of the walls, cardinal points, like the cross on a circle, there are doorways. And each doorway goes through to a passage. Now, the one I'm looking into is a sunlit passage because it must be south facing, it's the afternoon, and I'm going to go and have a look through there. But there are also, there's a door there, and behind me, and each one has a passageway off which there are spaces. Some of them are indoors, some of them are outdoor. Essentially, we'll call them rooms. And this lovely structure of this school is such a delight because this, you could call it, the Steiner schools would call it the central aula. An aula, A-U-L-A. central hall, whatever. But there are ways of managing resources. Very often it's great to have all the resources in the center, isn't that? So then you can radially spread out. But the way this school is created, they want the center to be an open space for all kinds of things to happen. Not just performances, but you can set up play equipment, you can set up experiments in this space because it's big. So what do you want your resources? You want them to be near. So if you think about these 4 corridors that I've said radiating out, the 2 rooms on either side nearest to the hall, right on the hall wall, are full of resources. These are the resource rooms. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, okay? And it means it's the shortest distance between that corridor and its 2 rooms and the one behind me. The middle space is where you can cross and bring all of these resources together. Take something that you need from here and work on it over here, combined with something you need and bring it to that. So it's about, what I'm trying to describe is an economy of space, just like you design a kitchen, right? There's always a triangle in a kitchen between the stove and the sink and the refrigerator. You have to have a good work triangle so that you can move, and be efficient in your cooking, your preparation, and your cleaning up. In the same way, you have the resources in these cardinal points. And then from there, once you've got your resource rooms, and we're going to go and have a look in a moment at those, you have these other beautiful spaces, which are the experimental, experiential places. Okay, so we're going straight ahead. And first, we're going to pop into the room on the right. Now, this is a lovely room. I've seen this room before. Sometimes over the years, when I've wanted to comfort myself or just put myself in a lovely mental place doing meditation or thought or going to sleep or just to, soothe myself, I will design a room in my mind, in my mind's eye, and I will put myself in there. And I've cultivated that much, much more, these etheric rooms, and I call it the soul room. If you go and look at many of my videos, it's a great place, the soul room, because you can put anything in there because you can instantly manifest it. But anyway, this place I created already is the room. I'm just found myself in it. I'm surprised by that, but I will describe it because it is a delight. Okay, so this room is a library. It's not like a library, you know. So it has a lot of color. Again, it's wooden, beautiful wooden floors. And there are benches all around the room. And on the benches, very squishy, lovely cushions, because it's a good nook place. You want to sit on a nook by yourself or with friends. And the cool thing about having squishy, soft furnishings is it dampens the sound. You don't want an echoey space of hard and sharp surfaces for a library. You want the sounds to be dampened, don't you? To be able to focus quiet murmurings of conversation. So this lovely squishy furnishing is perfect. And the colors are, it's not a rainbow, that's just too naff, but there are many beautiful complementary colors dispersed through, not pattern, there's enough pattern in the books, but just color in these cushions and these wonderful benches and these floor with rugs and cushions scattered on the floor. Similar kind of plump deliciousness. And also on the floor there are, they're not quite baskets, but that's just containers of books and other material a bit like books, like the kind of jigsaw-y type puzzles of the world, reference material, there's letter. This is all about words, this space. This is like a word resource space. So you've got all those sort of primary school type things where you have letters and you can put together wooden things and make sentences and just play with the shape even of letters, but also just words, all sorts of word games, card games like that. And they're in these kind of containers dotted around the room because it's a large room. But also then the walls lined with glorious books, because books are still good in the future, I promise you. We might think that we only want computers, but we really don't, because the frequency of so many computers is hard for us to work with. We will have computers, but they will be a softer frequency, more in tune with our natural human frequency. So not the AC current we currently use, but much more in tune with our human DC current, which is a much more stable current, which means that we won't have interference from external radiation fields of electricity when we have our computers. Anyway, That's another story because that's another room. Anyway, the walls, there are windows, long windows, beautiful long windows looking out to the grounds. Because of course they're grounds. There are animals outside the window, like cattle. I could just see some beautiful longhorned cows out that window, the meadow. Yes, there's a green space and then there's a post rail fence, and that's where the cattle is. And I can see some trees, but they are outside that window. Imagine sitting in that room. Oh, and reading your books and studying and gathering and collecting information. And there's a beautiful cow or two. Yeah, so there are animals outside, but we haven't been outside. We can do that another time. Big windows, lots of beautiful books, ancient books, new books, lots and lots and lots of books. And do you know what, these bookshelves, they're hilarious. Think of those kind of spy films, right? Where you press a button and the bookshelf turns around and there's a secret passage. It's not a secret passage, but these bookshelves have other sides. They're two-sided, so you can turn it around and you get a completely different selection in terms of language, because this is a word room. So you have different languages in this room as well as different books on the other side, and you let it, the whole bookcase rotates, so you get a whole selection in another language. Same books, different language, brilliant for comparison, for learning a language, all kinds of different subjects. Anyway, this whole room full of these beautiful bookcases. So this is a place to go in and collect and study. Wonderful. We'll come out of that room for now and let's see what's on the other side of the corridor. And then we're going to go down into the other rooms. And what I can see already in this in-between space with this beautiful library on this side and this room we're about to go into is this corridor goes straight for a moment, and then there are some steps down, and right at the end I can see a window. So again, you're always connected to nature and light. Beautiful. Okay, and there's some sparkle of water that I can see reflected through the windows. We've had all sorts of elements already experienced in this beautiful place. Let's have a look at this room. This room is dark. It's dark. Why is it dark? Well, have a look. Inside the room, I have to look turning this way because I'm not going to go inside it yet. I'm just going to look first and then I will go in more. Right. So this is a sort of precious room. Precious things. How do you get across the sense of preciousness to a child, age 3 to 18? You have to present it in a beautiful way. For adults, if you go to a gallery and you find a picture which is framed in a beautiful frame, a rich frame, or it can be simple, but something that looks like it has a presence to it in terms of frame. Maybe it's got one mount, maybe it has two, a double mount. It looks like it has been taken care of. I promise you, those paintings, because I ran a gallery for 6 years, those paintings sell far better because they are respected. They are seen with respect because the person who's framed it has asked us to take it seriously, to honor it, to respect it. So if you want a child to value and honor an object, something delicate, you have to give them a context that without words, you can add the words, but without words indicates exactly what's going on. It is something delicate, precious, one-off, unique. So this room is, it's almost like a museum. It is a kind of museum. And in fact, they have a deal with the local museum. Well, not that local, but the state museum. And they get loaned things. Yes. And they get placed in this room. And what I can see is, for example, there's this exquisite Chinese urn, right? Big vase, basically a vase. And you can see all the craftsmanship of the original porcelain and the painting. There's some calligraphy on it too. And it's nestled into the wall. It's almost, the wall is a kind of a, oh, how do I describe this? Styrofoam, right? You know, when you get a new lamp and it comes in a big styrofoam box to protect it, that's a hard, fast, rubbish thing that you can burn in the fire if you close the door and it turns into ethylene and water. It's not too bad in terms of a plastic, but this is something that you can press, and it's a bit like going to the dentist when you have that form put on your mouth and it presses in the gypsum, and you can take it out of your mouth and the dentist knows exactly what your teeth look like. This is like that. The wall is kind of this thick, and the objects get very carefully pressed in and create a niche in the wall so that they have a shelf already made for them and they're very safe. They can, however, be removed, the objects, and turned around, and there are plenty of plinths at different heights. And in fact, no, they can move. There's like a lever, you can have them high or low or low. And these objects can be moved onto the plinth and looked at and turned, because there's a turning circle on the plinth. So you can turn it, it's like a little lever, you can look all the way around. Oh, different things from different times in history. This is a historical room. This is an archaeological treasure. This is a room of the feats of humanity in terms of culture. There's jewelry in there. There are household ornaments. There are implements. There are things from the 1960s, the 1980s, from the 1880s, from the 1660s, from the 1200s. This is amazing. I had no idea this would be in this school until now. Fun. And the light is kept quiet. There's a spotlight on each object which you can increase the light on so that you can truly see it. Otherwise, it's an experiential zone of wandering through with each object lit advantageously so you can see it. This is a treasure trove, literally. And we're giving children access to it? Who else needs to study our past? Children need. And children need to know what's beyond their four walls, beyond their village, beyond their house, beyond their state, beyond their city. They need to know. Glimpse. You know, the only reason right now we hold these things in museums and only let adults see them behind, you know, glass shields and high sets of alarms is because of the money. They're not conceived as, officially we think, oh yes, it's culture and beautiful, but actually the authorities see it as money. This is a 20 million pound thing. This is a $2 screwdriver. This is 600,000 pounds or whatever, dollars, who cares what it is. It's equated in terms of money, and that's why we never let children touch them. It's like, oh, they're precious and irreplaceable. You can't put children near them. Children need to be near them. They need to understand where they come from, where they might aspire to. And we know adults, how our culture and history has been removed from our awareness. There's that whole thing of Tartaria. People get very excited by Tartaria, but it's the representation of endless resets that humans have been put through, these cycles of, oh, we're nearly at ascension level. No, we've got to suppress them and reset. We've got to keep the power here. 26,000 years ago, that was the last Kali Yuga, that weird name we give to this place of ascension in the universe. So yeah, they tried it on a few times and they were successful, but no, they can't do it now because the energy is too high. So we are in a completely different way of living, and our beautiful children need to be able to access that. So there is this wonderful scheme with big museum, and they come in and bring incredible things. Can you imagine the excitement on that day for all the children who come to this place of learning, and the adults? And they have a bit of a say in what goes in there. Yeah, they're actually, this is something else I never knew could happen, but great. Every museum, even the Smithsonian, has a full catalogue of everything they have. Just museums like the Smithsonian have many layers beneath where all the secrets are held, like the giant bones, etc. So we normal mortals have never had access to that, and only very, very few do, but they all have their catalogues. Now, the children are able to study these. And according to all of the spectrum of research projects of experiential play and learning, research that the children go into here in this place of learning, they get to choose what they want to see. They don't always get what they want, but they can certainly point out what they're like, and then the museum works out what we've got in our current collection. How can we organize it? Is it possible? Yes. And once they've worked out the logistics, then they bring them to this place. Amazing. So a very incredible spot. Yep. And yeah, there is a camera in there, just in case something happens, because it might not be the fault of the child that something smashes. It's very important to keep a track of it. So yeah, there is. But it is held with a sanctity of use and love, used for research, for art projects, for how did things work. Yeah. Oh, wow. What a resource. Had no idea that was going to be there. Right. Let's come back into the corridor, walk down the corridor. We've got 2 more rooms, and then we go down the steps and we get to a very beautiful big room at the bottom, but we're going to go and visit this one. Now, this one has got children in it. Yes, fancy that. And again, big windows, so there's light. Now, what I'm seeing is you don't normally get this in classrooms, right? You know, normal classrooms, right? Lines of desks, and the teacher stands in front, and you must all look at the teacher, and there's the blackboard or the whiteboard nowadays, and the projector behind the teacher. That's our tradition as far as we know it in our culture. This room is a little different. So again, I think the architecture, I'm going to have to draw a plan of this. So we've got this central space, and then we have these 4 radial pieces, the corridors, but they've got these rooms and they are on a curve. So you get the maximum light in each room. So the first room we were in, the library, it's not a bay window, it's much larger. It was curved wall like this, and then you're straight joining. And this wall we're in now, also curved room. So it's like a series of not quite semicircular, but large rooms with lots of window, lots of light from different directions, so that you always have light in the day when you're learning, which you need. Otherwise, go outside. We're not allowed to do that, are we, in education? Not allowed to go outside when it's sunny. No, but you can here. Anyway, the desks are set in to like a counter all around this beautiful curve. So you can look either out of the window or you can face into the room. It's up to you. They can be turned around. It's up to you how you want to study. If you want to focus yourself, you may want to be looking out of the window direction. If you want to focus into the room and work with others and see what they're doing, you'll turn your workstation around and focus into the center of the room. In the center of the room is a big table, beautifully lit, and there are lots of project works being put there. So resources for whatever projects are being engaged in by these children are placed on this table, and there are agreements and arrangements of how long those resources may be on there. Oh my goodness, I just seen a hamster in a nice little carrying case, proper hamster carrying case on that table. I wonder what project's going on there in this room, right? So things are allowed to be brought into this room, not liquids. This isn't a liquid zone. You could debate how liquid a hamster is. Living being with hay, probably somewhat different category, I'd hope. Anyway, stacks of all sorts of beautiful things for study and experimentation, but it's not like a chemistry lab where there are, different substances to mix and change. This is a more of a dry study, so it's books, computers, other kind of resources brought in from the library, and as I said, from other zones where there are other pieces of information. So there's some maps there are some pictures, there is an object from the beautiful museum room. I can see a small terracotta pot on one of the tables, and this is where things are put when they're not being used in that moment. And the children are mostly, well, they're sitting in their spaces, their desks that they've chosen, and they're milling around, talking to each other, plotting things, looking at the stuff on the table, deciding what to do next, having chats with the adults. This is a kind of general, quiet kind of murmuring. Everyone's happy because they're all doing what they want to do. Some of them want to work on their own, some of them want to work in groups. Everything is encouraged, and they're getting on with some lovely projects. So beautiful. We'll just say goodbye for them, shall? And let's go and have a look at this other room. Now, this other room, that's interesting. Okay, so I'm seeing, it's not a water room, but it is think it's like it's okay, I'm going to call it a yoga room, but it's actually, it's a stretching room. Okay, what? Yeah, so we've had books, extraordinary objects from museums, cultural and archaeological, anthropological. We've got this beautiful classroom we've just seen, and this room is a stretching room. I say stretching because the floor has got mats on the ground, and the walls, again, this curved structure, and there are windows. They're slightly higher up in this case because they're using the lower part to put stuff. There's balancing equipment, there's stretching wall things that you can climb up on the wall and hang down from it. Oh, I love these things. They've got can't remember the word, but those hanging silks that you can do yoga from. You can do aerial yoga with the separate hanging silks, but you can also have these hammocks. They are amazing. So this is a place where the children go when they've done lots of work and they need to stretch. They can go outside, of course. They can do classes in there, and they can just go in when there are no classes and use the basic kit to move their body, because we all need to move our bodies. And sometimes it's not good enough just to go out and have a walk or a run. You want to do something. And this is a room for it. It's just opposite this beautiful classroom. Oh, I'm going to make this place. So yes, you can go for there are classes throughout the day, throughout the week, that the children will sign up for, and the adults who work in that centre too, in the school, the speaking house. But it is a place you can just go and release, relax, stretch, and find yourself again, and then go back to your focused task when you've given yourself a break to refocus, recalibrate, and go back to whatever it was you were so involved in. So how gorgeous is that? Thank you. Now let's go down these 5 steps. It's a narrowed corridor now, somewhat narrow, but we have this beautiful, bright brilliance. And I'm seeing this big, big room. Now, this is a classroom area of, again, similar to what we had up there, different zones of, in this case, there are 2 big oval tables. This idea of the desks is there, but because it's on the ground, there are French doors, 3 sets right in front of me, here and here. And the spaces are outside, roofed spaces, glass roofed spaces, where a lot of experiments can be done. Now, imagine if you're doing some kind of, well, let's say chemistry, right? So you're working with all sorts of compounds that may have smells and gases and effluents and all sorts of things. You don't want to have that in a room where you're trying to study, I don't know, Greek, want or something else, maths, I don't know. So these spaces are external, internal. So this big, beautiful room where people may be studying Spanish or English, writing something, composing something, perhaps even music, actually, because some people like to compose without an instrument. There are some rare souls who can do that. And then you might have people wanting to look at some aspects of physics or mathematics or, yeah, some sort of chemistry going on. But this is, remember, this zone is the more kind of theoretical, but out in these little spaces, these roofed spaces beyond the doors, are areas of experimentation where you can work with liquids and stuff, and they're very, very well ventilated. You can add heat from below the ground, well, not below the ground, but there are like blower heaters coming up from the floor if it's cool. As long as your ankles are warm, you can do quite well in a cool space, which is what you want for experiments. And there are clerestory windows you can lift and vent. And of course, there's lots of light, and you have direct contact with nature. And when we're going to go through one of those doors, the one straight ahead, in fact, because there's something lovely outside. Remember I said there's a glint of water, and that's a small swimming pond. But either side of that is a very complex, beautiful herb garden, which is managed and planned by the children. For ingredients, for what? For experimentation. You know, learning about the herbs, the natural pharmaceuticals in nature. We need to know what they are. We need to recognize. Think about Harry Potter, right? And their herbarium, how they had to learn how to pot their mandrake and gather it. It's similar. There are herbal gardens managed and looked after and planned by the children, with all kinds of beautiful things. And some of those plants are growing in these, in this shelter, the central one. The small young seedlings can be used. And beyond the swimming pond and the herb gardens, there is another very large greenhouse conservatory where a lot more botany is studied, both for understanding how to propagate food, healing things. But remember, dyes, paints come from nature. So some from animals, but a lot from plants. There is so much to be learned from studying plant life that this is a whole area. And around this zone where we have the herb garden, the swimming pond, it's good to have water. It's fresh water, by the way, water, so you can always keep the plants watered. So it's a system which is great for swimming in, but it's also great for irrigation. You have this beautiful conservatory at the end for all of these different experiments, learning how to grow and work with nature. And then you have shrubs and trees, and that is this direction beyond for several acres. So you can go and harvest, and there's a whole lot of placement of structures. Remember, I'm a landscape architect. I like spaces and places that you can allow trees and shrubs to grow for you. But that is essentially the structure we've got there. And either side, these two other zones, the other two doors, have got more of a hard surface where experiments can go from the inside to the outside. You know, think about looking at speed and friction and slope and gravity and all that kind of stuff. You need to have surfaces to work with, to roll things, wheels, and all kinds of lovely things of experimentation. So these areas are like a seamless connection from the internal big classroom we had to the small sheltered zone where you can have liquids and so on, to outside, like a seamless interface, so you can roll and move things from in to out. Now, that's just one wing of this glorious place, right? And I think that's enough because it's quite long, but you can start to feel the essence of this, can't you? How exciting. Why do we not give our children this stuff? Because we say it's too expensive. But do you know how much people spend on like Rolex watches? Thousands of pounds, like £30,000, £120,000. And then we say, oh, but it's too expensive to build a school. And then you can go and buy, now a Van Gogh painting for £450 million, £900 million. But we don't have enough money for schools. It's like, yeah, okay. Obviously, we have enough money for schools like this. We just have to make a decision that our children are worth it. And of course they are. Because remember, we have lived for a long time under oppressive authoritarian structures, wishing to keep us in tiny little dormouse zones that we have no power, no rights. We are the little victims we must obey. Give me a break. Okay, so the new way of being is completely different on every single level. And it's about the human being, the glorious human being, allowing them to expand. We're going to want to hang out in those places and be the facilitators. Maybe we won't call them teachers anymore, or we do call them teachers, but teaching means something different. Inspirationers. Yeah, the adults are going to flock to want to work in those places because how fun is that? Of course, we're going to build them. It's just about changing the way we perceive money and we use money. There's loads of money. Okay, enough of that. That's just one little trip. Let's do some more. Please share these videos, like them, and comment on them wherever you find them, chopped up on TikTok, or I've got them on Substack. I put them back on YouTube because YouTube does throw away a lot of my videos. But so I've kept stuff off for the last 6 years from YouTube because I just got fed up with them. But I started to put them back on. So you might find these videos on YouTube or Substack or maybe Telegram even, or Truth Social, or who else do I put them on? Oh, Facebook, forget that. They never show any of my videos. But they're in a number of places. So just share them where you need to, where you know. I was working with a homeschool group who I could help every single inquiry of parents. I could help them. That administration of that group did want nothing from me because I was selling my books or my services. Well, yes, obviously, if I have a book that I've written that has the answer, or I have sessions available to people that I can help them talk through what they're worried about, yes, that is selling. But because people have been so tarnished by blatant, aggressive, wrong selling, they no longer allow helpful, loving people like me to offer my services. So yeah, it's hard to get into and reach the people who need me. So please, share these things. Okay, right. Goodbye. I must go and have some supper.